Greetings, book nerds. Welcome to the Book Nerds Corner. So, guys, I'm excited. Are you excited? Because this is the final part of the opening round, which I'm really excited for, which means I only have 4 books left to read and 2 more matchups. So let's get into it. To start off, I'm going to talk about Wicked Fox. I have also finished this one by the time of starting this video. I got a little behind on recording again. Wicked Fox is a Korean-inspired fantasy following Gumyo, or however you say the nine-tailed fox spirits, which I thought was really cool. I've been wanting to read this one for a long time because I'm a big fan of Nine Tails. I've heard of them more on the Japanese side, but I think it was really cool to learn more about the Korean ones because I feel like they kind of have a really bad rap, where in Japan they're kind of like benevolent, helpful spirits. So seeing how like the Nine Tails in Korean mythology were portrayed as like wicked and malicious was really fun. This one follows young Mi-young. Is that her name? Yeah. Mi-young, as she tries to like fit in at her local high school. She constantly gets kicked out of school for being kind of an outsider, and she gets bullied a lot, but she also kind of bullies others, so it's kind of a funny situation. And she's also trying to please her like overbearing mother, who's been alive for like literally thousands and thousands of years, which is definitely hard to do. I mean, she's immortal. Mi-young, when she comes to this new school, ends up meeting this boy by the name of Ji-hoon, and Ji-hoon was like kind of obsessed with her. He actually does it in like a not creepy way though. He kind of just like helps protect her from the bullies and stands up for her when she won't stand up for herself, which I thought was really sweet. But they have a really nice like bitter vibe at the start, and then they grow closer and closer as the story goes on. But yeah, without spoiling too much, these two kind of accidentally forge like a fated match, or like a unbreakable connection with one another, and they're forced to like deal with some problems together. This is the first in a duology, so there's definitely more to be learned, but I thought it had a very satisfying ending, and that really, like, all the questions are pretty much answered in this one until like the epilogue came around, which pretty much just set up book 2. So yeah, I'm really excited to read Vicious Spirits when I have some time, and I'm getting closer to the end of the bracket, so I think I'm going to check it out from the library when I go and return all these books. But yeah, I gave this a 4 out of 5. Right away I thought maybe it was going to be dropped down to a 3, which I would have been really disappointed with, because I was really excited to read this one. And I'm glad that in the end it kind of came back around and became like really interesting, and I came to like Mi-young and Ji-hoon more than I thought I would. So yeah, that was really cool. 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm really looking forward to the sequel. Definitely would recommend, especially if you're a fan of Asian fantasy. Okay, Wicked Fox was paired up with A Fragile Enchantment. And this is another one that I actually have had my eyes on for a while. It's by Alison Saft, who's written some other pretty big books that have came out recently, like Wings of Starlight, featuring Queen Clarion, which is another book I'm really excited to read. But this is my first book by her. This one is a historical romantasy inspired by Regency England, which I think is something that is just sounds super duper cozy. One of my favorite parts about this one was the romance. It was really cute and sweet. These two definitely have a Darcy and Lizzie vibe, where like they are constantly bickering and like insulting each other at the beginning of the story, and as it goes on they start to warm up to each other, but they're like still constantly bickering and insulting each other, which is just like such a fun vibe, which I absolutely adore. And then I guess I should tell you a little bit more about the book and the characters before I go on much deeper. So Neve is the girl, and she is a like tailor / seamstress, dressmaker, etc. And she has been hired by Kit's older brother to like tailor the clothes for Kit's wedding. Kit is very reluctant to be married. He's very reluctant to get clothes made from Neve, and that gets them set off on kind of the wrong foot. They're very grouchy towards one another, and he's definitely grumpy and she's definitely sunshine. Something else that I found really great about this one was how the world was filled with like all these different kingdoms and complicated politics, but it was really easy and straightforward to understand. there's apparently 3 kingdoms that were important. It was like her kingdom, his kingdom, and his fiance's kingdom. So it was pretty easy to follow, as was the magic system. The magic system was also really easy to follow because pretty much each family line that had magic had their own kind of magic. So her family had like sewing magic where they could like sew emotions and feelings into clothing, which is why they wanted her to tailor his clothes, because they wanted all eyes on him and they wanted the best tailor around and all that stuff. And then Kit's family can control plants, which is why there's roses and stuff all over the cover. And the back was really cute, where there's like roses and then has like the dress things where you make clothes on, which I feel like represents them very well, and the color palette's really pleasing. But yeah, definitely a cute, cozy, romantic-y read, especially if you want something like light and fluffy that isn't too hard to comprehend between like darker, heavier reads, which is definitely what I got out of this one, because Wicked Fox is definitely a bit of a darker fantasy, and the next book I'm reading for the bracket is also really dark, which we'll talk about more in a little bit here. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 out of 5. It wasn't anything like spectacular. It was a little cliche, read very similar to any other Regency romantasy I've ever read, but it was still really cute regardless, and I would definitely recommend it. So when it comes to picking between these two, I think this was the closest matchup I've had all bracket, because like Wicked Fox I was expecting to be really good, and then it kind of like didn't quite reach my expectations, and A Fragile Enchantment I was a little more loose about, but then it like exceeded my expectations. But they both landed at 4 stars, and they're both like a really solid 4 stars, so it was really hard for me to like pick between the two of them. I ended up going with Wicked Fox because I feel like the world building was like a little more solid and the conflict was way more intense and interesting. But like the romance definitely wasn't as great in this one, though I feel like the romance will be really good in book 2 because it took them just forever to even like kind of like each other in this one. Which is funny because these two also like would banter all the time and like yell at each other, but like I felt these two's relationship from the start. Like I just like, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, I chose Wicked Fox to win this matchup, but I really would recommend A Fragile Enchantment. Definitely a great read. Honestly, my friends are nailing this bracket. They've all been like really great. I've had like 2 stars the entire time, and everything else has been like a high 3 or higher. It's been amazing. But yeah, with that being done, we are officially on to the final matchup, which I'm so excited for. I do love my friends picking up my books, but especially at this point in the reading challenge, I'm just like, oh my goodness, all the books on my bookshelf, I want to read you. Or, oh my goodness, this book just came out from I need to go get it from the library. Or, oh my goodness, I just got all this book mail from authors, I should really, really read it. Only 2 more to go. They are a bit chunkier, they're kind of long. And I have also already started the next book, but I'm not very far into it, so this hopefully I'll catch up. I'll stay more caught up on recording and not get super behind, so it will be a little less awkward. Okay, so next up we have Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. I am 40 pages into this one, and I honestly cannot tell you much about it. The world building is very complex. The society is really intense. Like, someone's hand was already cut off. It's not been that many pages. And it follows 2 young girls. But yeah, this one follows 2 separate women. We have Araya, who is a part of one kingdom, and she's been in jail for a long time for some reason, and I don't really know why. And then there's also Jasmine, who is like the princess of the other realm. And they're like rival witch groups, I think. And then Jasmine's also working with like a rebel group to like overthrow her mother, but I'm not really sure how everything connects yet. A little confused. The world building's a lot. I hope like by the time I get like 200 pages in, I know what's going on, because this book is really long and the sequel is even longer. So I hope I'm not confused for like 1,200 pages. Anyway, wish me luck, and I'll update you on this one when I have more thoughts. I just finished Witches Steeped in Gold yesterday afternoon, and I must say, this one was a really hard one to get through. It was really long, over 500 pages. The world building was kind of just like supreme info dumping of like all these different magic systems and orders, and gods and goddesses and all this stuff, and it was just really confusing. It's a Jamaican-inspired fantasy, and I had a bit of a hard time deciphering like what was just Jamaican and what was like made up fantasy terms. I really wish this one would have had a glossary of sorts. That would have cleared things up a little bit, but it is what it is. As you can see, I'm not holding up the book. I did have to return it, so I will have it posted on the screen over here or whatever. And, you know, I'm kind of okay with that. And I don't have to have its energy lurking around anymore. I gave this one a 2 out of 5 because I personally just thought it was really boring. It was really violent, which wasn't really to my liking either. And I also just found it to be rather confusing. Like, the first 100 pages were probably one of the most confusing pieces of literature I've ever read. I must admit that the only redeeming factor I really found about it was that the writing was pretty strong. Like, the writer had some like one-liners that I was like, wow, that was really impactful, or that was really powerful. But like in the context of the story, I just didn't really care. A little bit more about what the actual plot is about. It follows 2 girls, one named Araya and one named Jasmine. They are 2 heirs to rival witch groups, and they're pretty much hate each other, but are reluctantly working together to take down the current queen of the kingdom because she's corrupt and responsible for all these bad things. Definitely not a fan of this one. Definitely wouldn't recommend. I don't even think I'm going to read the sequel because it's like 700 pages and I didn't really like the first one. So I think I'm just going to move on with my life and not think about that book a whole bunch more. Obviously, that was the first one in this matchup, so I still have to read An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir, which I would be shocked if this one loses to that book because I was not a fan. But for the sake of the bracket, I will read it and see if it conquers any of the other books. Honestly, I don't know much about this one. I know it is a really, really popular fantasy series. The second book in the spin-off series just got announced, I know. And it follows, I believe, a slave and a soldier as they journey to do something. Beyond that, I'm going to this one blind. And I'm really excited to give this one a read. This one is the last book in the bracket, which I'm actually like stoked about because I'm really yearning to get back to reading whatever I want. I love when my friends pick out my books, but I've definitely hit the point where I want to start reading things for other things. And I'm really excited that this is the last one. It's also a little longer. I think it's almost 500 pages also, but it's definitely a little shorter than the last book. And hopefully I'll get through it faster because fingers crossed that's more interesting. But I'll let you guys know in the next update. I'm really happy to announce that we ended this book bracket on a really high note. I finished An Ember in the Ashes. I also had to return the book already. And it was really good. I gave it 5 out of 5, and it definitely reminds me of The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, as well as The Hunger Games, which The Prison Healer also really reminded me of. It follows a young girl named, I think it's Laya, and a young soldier named Elias. They live in this like dystopian world in which the government is very corrupt and they're ruled by this ruthless empire who punishes anyone who like even minorly steps out of line. It's based off of Rome and kind of how it was set up, which I didn't really see while I was reading it, mainly because like it gave me more Arab vibes, which I mean, Rome was massive, so that makes sense too. I just didn't really pick up on that until like post reading it. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Pretty much the storyline follows Laya, who has to join the resistance group after her grandparents are killed and her brother is taken by the Empire's masks, which are pretty much this elite group of people who are trained as soldiers to protect the Empire and pretty much do the like everything that the Emperor wants them to do. Elias is a part of this group that is called the Masks, and he's a very reluctant soldier. He doesn't want to be there. He's desperate to leave, and he's actually thinking about like deserting his post, but this guy tells him that the only way to find true freedom is to wait post-graduation and see what happens. So he decides to go with it. But anyway, Laya is eventually sent to the academy that Elias is training at. It's a big military academy. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Black Quill or Blackwater or Blackway or something. And these two like inevitably meet and realize their destinies are kind of entwined, but that doesn't really happen until like way later in the book. So it pretty much just follows Laya as she's working for the resistance, trying to go figure out information while not dying as a slave, because slaves aren't treated very good, obviously, especially like way back then. They really didn't care if they just one died and they replaced it with another one. And then Elias is put through these deadly trials because he's chosen to be one of the 4 who are going to compete to become the next emperor. And then like the emperor second in command. So 2 of them will die and 2 of them will like rise above the others and become part of this new empire. So yeah, it's definitely a complicated fantasy world. There's 4 books in this series, and the second book in the Air duology, which is the spin-off series, was announced. And I believe there's only going to be 2 of those. So 6 books in this world, plus a graphic novel series, I think. So I think there's 8 books in this world already, which is pretty cool. It's been a little bit since I got like invested in another huge series, so it'll be fun to slowly like nibble on this one as time progresses this year. But yeah, An Ember in the Ashes is a really popular series, and I'm glad to hear that I enjoyed it. I have read books by Saba Tahir in the past and enjoyed them, so I wasn't super shocked, but it's really nice to know that I have another 5-star rounding out this bracket. I think that leaves me at 4, I think it's 5. I think it's 5 5-stars, which I think is pretty solid out of 16 books. But yeah, with that, we have to decide who wins. This one's pretty obvious because Witches Steeped in Gold versus An Ember in the Ashes, we're not even close. Witches Steeped in Gold was a 2-star. I didn't like it all that much. It was really boring, took me forever to get through. And I flew through An Ember in the Ashes. Like, that book was like over 400 pages, and I read it in like 2 sittings. So definitely An Ember in the Ashes wins, and it's even a 5-star contender to win the whole thing. So that's very exciting. And with that, that's the end of the bracket 2026 opening round, which is really, really awesome because now I can actually move on to reading other things. Yay! But stay tuned for my book bracket wrap-up video. There'll be one more that kind of goes through who wins the next rounds, and then a few other random details surrounding the bracket, as well as picking out the winner. So definitely stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next one, book nerds. Bye!